Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4 of the Palmcast. Actually, I'm trying to remember, is this 4 or 5, Teddy? They seem to be
No, we're
going
on to
by.
five.
Oh,
Yeah,
on 5, sorry. Jeez. All right, episode 5, everybody. I'm off my rocker. We have a very, very special guest in Mike Fiore of Smith's Gardentown. Uh, we're very, very excited to have about an hour and a half with Mike, which is his time is very precious. So we're gonna pull pull and extract as much information out of his brain as we possibly can over the next hour and a half. Um, and as we start off with every single one of these, we'll include you in this one, Mike. And because you are our guest, what's been going on in the last week, man?
Yeah, the last week has been very busy. So spring has started early for us here in North Texas this year. It started in February, which is great for me. In January and February are usually really tough months for us, especially if February is cold. But with it being, we actually had our warmest February on record this year. And we also had the most sales we've ever had in a February this year, which is awesome. We're starting to get a ton of traffic coming into the greenhouses and moving a lot of inventory, getting in a lot of inventory, just helping people, and it's feeling like the craziness of spring already. So it's been fun time of year.
Excellent. How about you, Teddy?
And just riding the same high. I've been kind of reiterating every time we talk. Just I love the transition from winter to spring.
Hmm.
I don't so much get seasonal depression, but maybe almost because I feel like a brand new person. Love just getting outside and planting stuff, and temperatures are up. Get some sun on my skin.
Yeah.
Um, I've been separating, potting up more community pots. Um, I think I've posted some videos on YouTube potting up a lot of stuff from half gallon up to 1 gallon and keeping the train rolling. How about you, Tom?
A lot of the same thing, man. I feel like we can probably cut and or copy and paste this exact same segment every single week. It's a lot of germinating palms, planting palms, potting things up. And I agree. Definitely, it's been warm. Although I'll get to why that's about to change. And it's funny, Mike's only what 2 or 3 hours to my west, and he's already feeling a cold front that is about to crash into my way in the next half hour or so. But yeah, so I've been enjoying spring as well, potting up stuff, planting things. Um, this week's been interesting. I've actually sold the most amount of antilensises that I have since I've been carrying them. I feel like you, me, and Tom and Joe have been talking a lot about that over the last week, trying to understand what these things are. So that'll probably be a show in and of itself. But it's been a good week. I'm enjoying spring. And then I'll circle back to the thing I was talking about originally is where you probably wondering why do I have my headset on? Usually I'm outside and it's really, really nice and we may have some wind, but there's a huge cold front on its way. Um, and it's already hit Mike, evidently. He's getting the winds that are coming here. The winds were actually quite crazy yesterday. It was insane yesterday. We were at a baseball game for all of our boys yesterday, all day yesterday. I showed up in the morning in shorts. I was freezing. It was so cold and windy. And then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was like 84 degrees and I was dying of heat. And then it started cooling down immediately after the sun went down. So I've been here 6 years and I still don't quite understand Texas and our roller coasters of up and down. And same cold front is about to hit us here today. Tomorrow morning, we have a low of 34, 35, which in March is never great. Hopefully, all of our apricots and peach and stuff like that, all the blossoms are good. But I have my headset on because the wind is essentially going sideways at this point. So, just trying to keep all the noise out of you guys. But it's been a good week, and truth be told, I was looking forward to this interview the entire week, man. Like I've known Mike for what 2 years now, Mike, and you've been super gracious, man. Like even since the day I met you, you were very interested in the uh, crazy palm hobby that Teddy and myself have been involved in now for 6 years. Well, I've been 6 years, and you've been great since we had the chat to actually talk in the beginning. So I'll kick it over to Teddy. You can go ahead and introduce Mike if you'd like, man.
Yeah, Mike, it's great to meet you and get to talk to you. I'm really seriously thank you for being on. It's such a pleasure to have people like you, you on for all the people that get to watch, but also selfishly for me and Tom too. Um, so I guess we wanted to just kick this off and do some questions with you. How did you even get started in the nursery business? What's up with Smith's Gardentown? Can you tell us some stuff about it, please?
Yeah, I was actually, born into it. So I'm a fourth generation nurseryman. It was Our business was started by my great grandfather, and he started off just growing plants in his backyard, kind of like Tom and probably you yourself too,
Yep.
way back in the 1940s. And in 1949, he got his first official storefront together with my grandfather. So we've been in business for 76 years now, and we've moved locations a few times. A lot of ups and downs along the way, but have been growing. We When I was a kid, it was owned by my mom, my two uncles, and they each had three kids, and so all my cousins and my siblings, we all grew up working in the business, and then everybody scattered to the wind once we graduated. And same with me, I moved down far away. I went the farthest away of anyone because I went down to Costa Rica, and then I lived in Peru for 4 years after that. Um, and then came back into the business 11 years ago. And then over the years, bought out my two uncles. And then in 2024, I bought out my mom and became the owner in 2024. So this will be my second spring owning the business. And with my brother is a minority partner in the business, but he lives down in Bernie, like 5 hours away from me. So he's more like a cheerleader for me and a silent partner. But yeah, it's a crazy business. I never thought I would be back in it. But God has a way of bringing us back. And that's another crazy story of just how I got back into the business after being away for 10 years. But yeah, it's fun time.
What before we move forward, that's really interesting to me about the Costa Rica and Peru stuff. Um, if you don't want to like get full dive into that story, that's fine. But how is the plants down there? Like just being exposed to different tropical climate and plants and stuff like that. Was that cool as it seems?
Yeah, it's insane. So, when I was in Costa Rica, I was teaching environmental science for an after school program, just like a little, unpaid internship type deal. But I was living on a nature preserve down there, and Costa Rica is just stunning. Um, the plants, the wildlife, all of that, and then eventually moved down to Peru, and excuse me. And then down there, I was living in Iquitos, Peru, which is right on the Amazon River. So it's about 3 degrees below the equator. So it doesn't, and it's tropical lowland jungle. And the plants there are it's nuts. Just seeing, all the vines and the trees and the epiphytes everywhere. So it was fun getting to know that part of the tropics and the different fruits that are down there that people here haven't even seen before. So I love Peru. I love the jungle. I love going back. I took my family back down because my wife's from Peru. So we went down over Christmas and we're just down there again for a couple weeks. So fun time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. My goodness, I can only imagine. Different going on a trip, and you get a week or two immersion, but then actually living there is is great, man. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Ma-
Um,
Imagine the plants, Teddy,
no,
not having to worry about 32 degrees ever again. Have you?
no,
Yeah.
it's insane. Imagine planting a sable down there, how fast it would grow.
The plants grow like crazy and you don't even have to water them. It's just because it just rains all the time. But I remember planting a papaya from seed and the tree was 10 feet tall, and we were harvesting papayas within 6 months from seed to that size in 6 months. It's insane how fast things will grow there.
Wow, that
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous. I need that in my life. I
Yeah,
really do.
yeah, especially for greenhouse growing, we need a touch of that fast forward.
yeah.
Um, Man, Tom actually told me there's a tornado story that happened at the nursery. Do you want to touch on that and tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean the business has gone through some major hardships and survived them. Probably the craziest one of all was before I was even born. So this was the 1979. It was called Terrible Tuesday, and it was at the time was the most destructive tornado in U.S. history. So it cut a mile wide path, 10 miles long through the city of Wichita Falls. This was a F4 to F5 size tornado that just went right through the heart of the city, and it wiped out around over 10,000 homes and a lot of businesses. Our garden center just got completely leveled, just erased off the face of the earth. And it was April, so that is, for those that are not in the industry, here in Texas, April is peak season. I mean, that is when we do more business in April than any other month of the year. So I can only imagine what my grandfather and uncles were thinking. You've got your whole place is full of inventory, you're rocking and rolling, and then, in a 10-minute span, your whole business just gets erased off the earth. Um, so that was a really challenging time, but the community and our vendors and the relationships we had really rallied around my grandfather because of his reputation, of always paying vendors on time, always treating people well, good relationship with the bank and the bankers. So, they're sitting there in the rubble the night that the tornado happened, and the president of our local bank pulled up into the driveway and talked to my grandfather and looking around, and he goes, "Curtis, how much do you need to rebuild?" And I'm sure he was just in despair at that moment. And he looked around and he goes, "I don't know, $1 million." And the guy said, "Done." And then they got going the next over the next few days. There was no electricity, there was no water in the whole city, nothing. And over the next few days and couple of weeks, they sifted through all the debris. We had customers showing up just out of their own goodwill to help sift through the broken glass and try to rescue as many plants as possible, and pots as possible, and down on your knees and on stools just repotting things, and ended up clearing out of space and putting up a temporary shade structure, so that they could try to get selling again because this is spring. And then all of a sudden trucks started showing up from vendors, and they were just dropping off plants. Hey, we want to get you back going in business, and don't even worry about paying us right now. We just want to drop this off for you. We know you're going to be good for it, but we want to get you going again. And they were actually reopened and selling plants within 2 weeks of that event. And then over the next, year, rebuilt the facility there.
That's incredible. That man, that speaks volumes to like the resiliency of your family and how good of a business you guys have if everybody rallied that strong, because
Yeah,
if nobody liked you, that'd be the time to kick you out of town,
right, exactly.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I'm thinking about the wind here right now, and at Tom's place and yours right now. I could, if a tornado hit, man, it would wipe me out.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about that the other night, because we got hit by a really bad hailstorm last April. That was fairly devastating for us, but we were able to make it through. We had to re-roof more than 2 acres of greenhouses last year because of that storm, and And it was during
Oh,
April as well. But I was just thinking, man, because we've been getting some severe weather alerts lately, and I'm like, man, I don't want to go through this again, or Lord forbid, a tornado.
Yep,
Um, so yeah, it's always keeps you on the edge of your seat in this industry.
for sure.
man, as you said that, guys, it's almost uh prophetic, but boy, the winds have all of a sudden picked up and the trees are going sideways. So I'm glad you guys are talking about the wind because all of a sudden it's here. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Uh no, so Mike, yeah, I think I've known you now for year and a half, almost 2 years maybe.
Yep.
I'll say you've been incredibly gracious. You're incredibly kind. You're like the nicest, most humble person I've ever met. And I think what's cool is, as you talk about the story of the tornado is, aside from the business aspect and all that other kind of stuff, you know, generally people, especially I've noticed in the plant kind of business, people are super, super nice and they want to help each other. That seems to be a very
Absolutely.
common thread of people who are just really good people.
Salt
Um,
of the earth.
Salt of the earth kind of people. I mean, it's kind of hard to be a jerk if your knees are on the ground all the time. Then you're dirty, I guess, right? Keeps you
Yeah.
humble. I know it does me. Not to mention, I think you realize that you're not in control, i.e., the wind, when you're outside and you're growing stuff because there's so many things that are completely out of your control. Uh, One of the things I wanted to ask you about is at Smith's Gardentown, I really didn't know a whole lot about your operation when I showed up at Plant A Palooza. You,
Uh,
the event was awesome, so I hope you're doing it again this year.
we
B,
are trying to figure out a date for doing it this year, but yeah, we want to do it again.
awesome. If anybody is in within 5 hours of Wichita Falls, Texas, come see Plantapalooza. It was absolutely a fantastic time. We'll touch on that because my kids enjoyed that a lot. They love your ducks, and
Oh yeah.
they, they'll be in the pond this year in their scuba outfits chasing those ducks. So one of the things I realized was you guys aren't just like your garden center that's down the street, right? You guys, and I have a lot of questions for you because I learned a lot about you guys. But you guys from seed to plant, you're propagating, you guys are harvesting like all your own rainwater even to a degree. Like you
Yep.
showed me, man, when you did that tour of your greenhouses, I wanted to like take one home with me, or
Yeah.
all of them. I was incredibly jealous. And the dirt machine that just the things that you have that I wish I had would make my life easier. But
Uh-huh.
can you tell us a little bit about just the operation in general? Like what makes you guys so unique? And I think was it you or your mom had mentioned that you guys are like the number, I want to say eighth or 10th largest. What's the
So we're one of the largest garden centers in Texas as far as retail garden centers. I would say
Mhm.
we're probably in like the top five for sales volume in Texas. We're a top 100 garden center in the US on the retail side of things. But what's really unique about us is we are a grower retailer on the same property. So, most garden centers are not growing their own plants at all. They're just buying plants and reselling them.
Yep.
Or if they have a grow operation, it's somewhere outside of the city, off-site, and then they're trucking those plants in. And we're one of the few left in the country that it's all done on the same property. So our production houses are right behind our retail houses. And so as soon as we've got plants ready to sell, we put them on carts and bring them out to the front. Um, we specialize in growing color and perennials. So we grow, more than 90% of the annuals and perennials that we sell are grown here on site. We've kind of forayed into growing some of our tropical foliage and houseplants and ferns. We grow a bunch of ferns. We grow some of our shrubs as well. And so all in all, we're growing up between 500 and 600,000 plants per year in our greenhouses. And we're not doing really any wholesaling. It's all for our retail store. We used to do wholesaling to Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, other regionals. regional garden centers. But as our retail operation has grown, we don't do any wholesaling anymore, except for poinsettias. We do wholesale some of the poinsettias that we grow.
So on the poinsettias, right? Because I remember a lot of things about that tour, which by the way, that was a lot of fun. Actually seeing a large operation like yours and seeing all the, everyone walks into a garden center and you see all the cool stuff up front. You have the cats all over the place. I remember that.
Yeah.
Everyone has their wind chimes and books. My kids, by the way, for everybody who's listening, one of my kids won, I believe, like a gift card or something in the drawing all the way at the last, like right at the
Oh
end of the
yeah.
thing. Yeah. So that was kind of cool, dude. My kids loved the experience. So everyone's been in that part of the garden center, but it's not very often that you get to be walked from a greenhouse to another greenhouse to yet like four more greenhouses. And one of the ones I made the joke, I was like, Mike, do you think I can put my sables in one of these and just use up like, maybe two long rows or something? And you made the comment of this is going to be full because I think it was what in May maybe that
Yeah.
I was out there. And you
Yep.
said by
So
August or something, it was going to be completely full, you said, right?
yeah, it doesn't stay empty for long. So
Yeah.
we essentially do three big turns per year in the greenhouses. So right now the greenhouses are all full of geraniums and petunias and our other spring plants, periwinkles and all that. And then as soon as those greenhouses empty out, which is right around May, so we had just cleared out a bunch of greenhouses. We do a sanitation process where we'll go through, we sweep, we foam everything with disinfectant, we clean up, and then we start our next production. So right in June, we actually are starting on chrysanthemums. So for our fall crop of mums. So we were right in between crops when you were up here. So spring had just kind of cleared out. Mums were about to go in. So that's our second production of the year. We'll grow those mums. And then in September, October, we're clearing that out again. And then we're filling it right back up with poinsettias for Christmas. We actually plant poinsettias in July and August, but they're still young and small. By the time the mums clear out, they've grown quite a lot, so we got to space them into that range as well.
That was a lot of fun, man. I really enjoy. I mean, we could probably go on for 2 or 3 hours about your operations and just all the things I learned from you, even though I don't have an operation, even a tiny fraction of yours. But one of the things I thought was interesting was the machine that did all the mixing of your dirt. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Just to watch the flats get completely filled. And
Yep.
I mean, you obviously have to because you guys have the volume that you do. But it was really cool to see, I'm sure Teddy is the same way as me. I use a wheelbarrow. I mix all my dirt in the wheelbarrow and I just kind of sit there painstakingly and just by hand. I put all my sables one by one into nursery bags and my kids all looked at me as they saw that machine and then they were like, "Dad, that would make your life easier." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not as cool as Mike is though." So hopefully someday. But so that was very interesting. And I think one of the things that had stuck with me was, you know, people don't think about this that much, but the water that is involved in an operation like yours. And I think at that time in May, actually, yeah, by that time in May, I hadn't done the drip irrigation in my greenhouse. So I was still walking in there like a moron, just watering all my shelves, top, bottom. And it was a very, very manual process. But just to see how well you had all that stuff done properly, and you obviously have to, but you had mentioned the amount of water that you guys use and your partnership with the city and how you guys are able to actually harvest water, how you store it in a certain spot, which is your pond, I believe. And can
Yep.
you tell us a little bit about that whole operation and how you conserve and help?
Yeah, so we have retention ponds on the front of our property, which are the duck ponds for all of our customers. But the property was built to originally we were planning on irrigating out of those ponds, and so everything kind of slopes to those ponds, and then we also have pipes where we catch the rainwater off of the roofs, and there are French drains underneath all the greenhouses. So any excess water when we're watering, it ends up going to French drains and then going out into pipes and then gravity fed up to our ponds up front. So rainwater and excess irrigation water go out there. Now we have in the past decade or 15 years since we've grown, the retention ponds are not large enough to supply all of our water needs for the greenhouses. They're just not big enough. And so we would suck them dry really quickly if we were using all of that water for what we do. So we primarily use municipal water because we don't have water well, or we don't have good quality groundwater on our property, unfortunately. So if we were to use surface water exclusively, we would need basically we'd need a little lake to supply our water needs for us. But we do still collect that water, and it's a nice green space out in the front of our building where the ducks and wildlife and people can feed the koi. We've got koi out there, and we've got little vending machines for duck food and stuff like that now. Um, and then we are still able to use that water in as auxiliary water for trees and shrubs whenever we need to. But yeah, we try to be efficient. And since we're on municipal water, we try to set up everything we can on drip irrigation. We don't use a lot of overhead sprinklers in our greenhouses. Like, most of the time when you go to wholesalers, especially, in the southeast, they've got so much water over in the southeast that they're just spraying sprinklers everywhere 24/7, and they've got really, really cheap water. With us having expensive municipal water, we have to find ways to be really efficient with it.
That's part of being in Texas, right?
Yeah.
As I'm currently feeling the harshness of the weather, right? You mentioned hail. We have plenty of droughts. We have heat, right? It transitions from very cool to all of a sudden, like next week, it's going to be 90 degrees on Saturday, which is just absolutely outrageous
Oh,
for
I just did a screenshot of my weather app because we're showing a low of 30 degrees tomorrow morning, and then we're showing a high on Sunday of 102 on my weather app.
102.
That's what it says. I just
I
I
need to
just
look again.
literally I did a screenshot of it and posted it on my Twitter just now because that's insane. Um,
Wow. Well, that's
because
great.
Texas.
It is Texas, man. And Teddy, you don't quite have to deal with this, but I've only been down here in Texas for 6 years now, and the weather is truly schizophrenic. It is very I don't have 102. I have 93 as a high. And so and what's interesting I find, Mike, is on the topic of weather, you guys are what, zone 7B, they say, right?
Yeah, depending on which year of the hardiness zone map you go by, we've always been zone 7B, but in the most recent one they've changed us to 8A, which I disagree with, but that's neither here or there.
Yeah, yeah. Teddy and I talk about that all the time. There was a whole hour-long conversation about the all the generalizations of zone maps and all that kind of stuff. You guys definitely get way more harsh weather than we do out here.
It's just a
Um,
little more extreme, yeah.
it's a little more extreme, yeah. And I wonder if that's just because there's a lot less stuff out by you guys, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's only barbed wire fences between Canada and here, so
I think I heard that from you. I made that comment to somebody yesterday, and I totally screwed that comment up. And now I have it recorded. I know what it is. Yes, that's funny. Anything else about the greenhouse that you think's either unique or interesting for anybody that doesn't have access to a gigantic operation like yours?
Well, one little aspect that I think is funny is I've always thought like you that we were this gigantic, cool, streamlined, modern operation, and then I traveled and I visited some other places, and we've got our property's 26 acres and 4 acres of that are under greenhouse. Well, I've gone now and seen some of the big dog growers across the US, like Young's and Metrolina and places like this. And those places are like 50 to 100 acres under greenhouse and have way more automation and way more, modern amenities and robotics and things like that. And so that was when I realized that, yeah, I'm a big player in my region, but there's way bigger players out there in the US. And then those guys, what's wild is those guys will travel to the Netherlands and then they feel like they are light years behind what's happening in the Netherlands when it comes to greenhouse technology there. And so, yeah, there's levels to the game for sure.
Yeah, of which I'll speak for me, but I'm like at the bottom rung. I'm just happy to be anywhere by the ladder or near the rungs. So I'm glad to be where I am.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting to be out by you because it was just I I I just wish I had larger greenhouses. I'll just put it that way. I enjoyed seeing all those. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. That's how it begins, though. Starts in a backyard and then, or in your case, in the front yard, right?
That's what you tell me. I still remember when I began to talk to you and you made the comment to me of, Tom, you got to get your nursery license and you have to incorporate. I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it. And then eventually you just kept telling me. I was like, fine, fine. He's right. And you were right. So thank you, by the way.
What's the next steps we need to do, Mike, so we can be like you?
Yeah, you just got to keep building. Um, and building and expanding. I'm excited. I don't know. I'm always full of ideas as to, what's going to be next, but I actually have to I come up with so many ideas and, some of them are great and some of them are terrible. But I think they're all great at the moment when I think of them. And then, so I have to rein myself in and, talk with mentors and smarter people and try to figure out what the next big thing is going to be. And so that's where I'm always at is I have a growth mindset and mentality, but I have to be strategic about it and make sure that we're not going to, get over our shoes or over our skis and I don't want to get into like bad debt on stuff that can't cash flow. And so that's kind of where I'm at is always just trying to figure out, what's the next expansion that we can do and that's going to actually be smart.
Yeah, that's so huge. Just to have the right people around you and have good sounding boards. Like, I think Tom and I both like we wouldn't be where we are even right now if we didn't have each other. Um, so he's doing everything physically himself as I am here because we're in different states, but we use each other as sounding boards and bounce ideas off each other. And yeah, that's super important because, like you said, it's like that ego thing. Like you come up with an idea and it's a good idea in your head until you invest some money and realize nobody likes it. Yeah,
I'm glad
Yeah,
I
and
don't always
then
listen to myself because not all my ideas are very good. That's for sure.
yeah, I mean the way to level up really is hiring employees, but hiring employees is terrifying at first. When you don't have like the cash flow to support it right away. But when you're first starting out, you have to do it all yourself. And I'm blessed in that I came into an established business. But I come from an entrepreneurial family and that has different business ventures and different members of my family do. And so I'm decently well versed in it with the startups as well. But yeah, employees are just the key for any business that wants to grow eventually, because they allow you to focus on higher level things instead of, spending your whole day repotting. You can be marketing, you can be, doing important things like taxes and looking at profit and loss statements and
sure.
things like that. Finding new vendors and all of that. So we're super blessed here. We've got a phenomenal team of employees, really experienced employees. I've got just a great team around me. I mean, we're open for business right now, and I'm able to sit in my office for a couple hours and record a podcast because I've got a team out there that is, taking care of things. So employees can be, the greatest blessing in the world, or they can be, if you have bad hires, they can be a nightmare. And I've definitely experienced both in my time here in the business. But I'm proud to say that we have way more great, awesome people than we've had bad ones. So yeah, it's the employees are just they're key for any business that's going to grow and go to the next level.
That's awesome to hear. I will say, I mean, I want to transition a little bit over onto Plant A Palooza. I'm going to have you explain what Plant A Palooza is for everybody who is not in Wichita Falls or did not show up last year. But one of the things I'll say about, I'll commend your team because you're right. I only met everybody once for a grand total of 6 or 7 or 8 hours or whatever it was. But even when I first pulled up, everybody was so dang nice. I mean, it's probably also the Texas way to live life. Everybody was so super nice. I met early on Felicia. She walked out. She's awesome, by the way. Uh, she walked out. She was super nice and welcoming. Got me my table set up and stuff like that. And just everybody in the greenhouse, or in the greenhouses, in the garden center, everybody was awesome. So you do have a great team. So I commend you for having a great team. And yeah, you're right. It does allow you to, because I have orders that I have to go pack after this. I'm sure Teddy as well. But, we're probably not at that stage yet, but that's okay. So tell everybody a little bit about Plantapalooza, what it is, how you came up with it, and kind of what your aspirations are on that, because I actually think it's awesome.
Yeah, so we love events, and I'm thinking that, well, me and other people in the industry are really going bigger into in-person events. So what we kind of found out over ever since COVID, is that people have this desire to actually gather together and meet up and do real life things. And I think that's going to get even bigger in the near future. I think people are so fed up with being on their phones all the time and being in front of screens all the time.
Yep.
And I think there's going to be kind of a reckoning to that, especially with, Gen Alpha, as they are raised and they see their parents at home buried in their phones all the time. I think and I hope and I feel that they are going to there's going to be, I don't know if resentment is the right word, but I think they're going to want to do better than their parents in that regard and not be addicts to their phone so much. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But in the meantime, I'm going to go big on in-person real life events and where people can gather together and meet real people. So we in the fall, we actually hired this is I'll get back to Planet Palooza. I'm going down a slight rabbit trail.
Yeah, that's okay.
But in the fall, I believe in this so much, we hired an event coordinator to be on staff for us. And so we've been doing a lot more in-person classes, events, workshops, and things like that. And we're going to continue to do that throughout the season. But those are all generally smaller sized events, 15 to 50 people at those classes, workshops, and events. But we wanted to do something big for Planet Palooza just as an end of spring celebration. Plus, we have a lot of friends that are fun in the industry, like Destin, Texas Garden guy. I saw he's going to be on the Palmcast
He
soon.
is. He is. I
Um,
wrangled him in.
yeah, and then the plant prof, he was out here. Dez, gardening with Dez was out here, and so we've got friends that are well known in the social media world, and so wanted to bring them out and just do like a fun, just free event, give back to the community type thing, where we can bring in speakers, we could bring in some food and have a good time. We actually rented it was like a 60 by 40 tent, and put it up out in front of the building. We rented a bunch of tables and chairs to put out there and just had a fun time with talks throughout the day, educational talks from different experts, such as about cold hardy palms. And and then it was a good time. So we want to do that again. It's probably, I believe we did it in May last year. We're probably gonna have to push it to June this year, just because of some schedule conflicts with some people. But I'm hoping I can announce a date for that soon.
That was fun, man. I really enjoyed that. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. It was a good day trip for us. I had never been to Wichita Falls in my entire life. So it was good to visit and to come out there the first time. So
Yeah. Excellent.
So before we lose our traction, that I actually have looked at a lot of your videos that are on YouTube, and I saw that you guys do like there was like a huge rose event that you guys held, um, a bunch
Yeah.
of content that you make and film too. Like I saw a lot of your petunia stuff recently. With what was it like the man? I forget the names. Like starburst petunias,
Yeah.
maybe. Man,
Yeah, the night skies and things like that.
yeah, gorgeous.
Uh, yeah, so we that was another thing that I brought to the company when I came back was I guess I'm just naturally an educator and a marketer, and I enjoy doing that. And so when I came back with the company, the only social media we had was Facebook, and I think we had 2 or 3 thousand followers on Facebook at the time. Because this was back in 2015. Um, when I came back with the company. And then, so I started posting more to Facebook. Eventually, we made an Instagram, and started posting some YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I was always, quite inconsistent, with how I was posting, because I come up with good ideas and then I go through these times where I don't get a lot of ideas. And so I'm just kind of this roller coaster of, creativity. And then I saw something wild that about 4 years ago when TikTok was really starting to grow. I saw that a crazy statistic, which I was anti TikTok when it first came out, like a lot of people, especially people that were not like 17 and 18 years old. A lot of us were anti TikTok. But all of a sudden, I saw this news article come out that this would have been in like 2021, but there were more hours of video watched on TikTok than YouTube for that quarter of that year. And that blew my mind. I was like, I never thought YouTube would get dethroned as the video platform. And so I was like, I can't ignore this anymore. And so I had a customer who's a stay-at-home mom, and she had a following of like 10,000 followers for her backyard gardening on TikTok. And she just did it for fun as a hobby, making videos of her little raised beds and stuff. And I was like, wow, she knows how to operate TikTok and I don't. And she's a customer and she's a stay-at-home mom. And so I reached out to her when she was in the store and I was like, hey, would you want to help me do video marketing? And because you're doing it for free right now
Yeah.
as a hobby, would you want to get paid to do this for me? And she goes, yeah. And that was Felicia. So she joined us over 4 years ago, and she's been just a rock star. She started off part-time. She now works full-time for us. Um, and so she does all the work behind the scenes. We produce a new video every day for social media. And she's the one that actually does all that work. I just get to take the credit for it. And so that has really helped us. We're now probably the most or the second or third most followed garden center in the US, for social media followers. We're closing in on about 500,000 followers across different social media platforms. So the Facebook, where we used to have 2,000 followers, we've now grown that to, I think we're like 185,000 followers on Facebook. We're at like 285,000 on TikTok. Instagram is starting to take off for us now. YouTube is growing slowly for us, but yeah, it's been really well received, all the video marketing that we do, and it's all focused on education. For the most part, that's what I enjoy doing, is just, teaching people about plants and how to take care of them, and giving it a perspective from a greenhouse grower. Because there's a lot of what I call plant influencers out there. And some of them have really large followings, but there's very few of them that are actually in the biz. Most of your plant influencers are just hobbyists, really. And some of them are quite knowledgeable as hobbyists, but I think we're kind of in a unique spot where we can give a little bit different perspective as being professionals in the industry, and it's done well for us.
No, absolutely. And that's what Tom and I agreed on was like, just like you said, in our little niche, we do have a lot of experience. And we travel around and rub elbows with people like you that have more experience. And that was something we agreed upon was like, if we do this podcast, it's super important to get people like you on here that know more than us because we don't know everything and we're just scratching the surface. We just kind of found that there was a hole in the game, and just like you spoke about was like the only reason you guys have grown so big is because nobody else is doing it. There was a hole, and there was people that want to see this content. So before we lose the time to plug this, how can people find you on social media?
Yeah, it's all under Smith's Gardentown. So you can any platform that you want to go to, it's under the at Smith's Gardentown name for all of that. And I will say that it's really cool. Excuse me, it's really cool seeing you guys in your niches because I haven't had a chance to talk to you much, Teddy, but for Tom. I always will defer to your knowledge when it comes to palms because you are light years ahead of me. I know a fraction about palms because with my, garden center, I have to know a little bit about everything, um, because we deal with lawns, we deal with stone and concrete and all the different perennials in Texas and all the different annuals and trees and shrubs and all of that. And so I have to be more of a generalist, and I don't really get to like specialize down and get into the fine details of any certain topic unless it's something that I'm just really passionate about. And so, you guys blow me away when it comes to your knowledge of palms that I don't have. And so it's nice to have that resource to be able to refer people to. Like, if I get people coming in the store, like I can tell them a little bit and a few species that do well here, but I'm like, you should talk to Sable King because he's going to be way more knowledgeable on this than I am. So I appreciate what you guys are doing too, and there are people like you for all classes of plants. There are people like that are just as you're into palms. There are people that are that way for orchids, for fruit trees, for figs, for whatever it is. And those people will constantly blow me away with the knowledge they have of their niche.
For sure. I want to touch back on propagation. I know you and Tom spoke about that before, but yeah, so we talked about it. Like if you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, and there's nothing wrong with them, but they're definitely just plant resellers, right? I agree, I agree. But they're just plant resellers. So you talk to a garden specialist in there, and they're just watering plants and pushing you towards the cash register. With you guys being a full production, nursery, what why did you guys decide to grow your own plants? Like what's the reason behind that instead of like buying from a wholesaler and reselling?
Yeah, I mean, life would be a lot easier if we just bought plants and resold them, to be honest. I would have fewer employees, I would have fewer greenhouses. That dirt machine that you love so much, it tends to break about once a year and it's really expensive and time consuming to fix it. And so, if we didn't have a grow operation, life would be easier in certain regards. But the reason why we have a grow operation is sorry, kicked my charging cable. The reason why we have a grow operation is because it allows us to control the timing, the quality, most of all, but the timing and the mix that we grow. So I really love having a grow operation because we are able to bring plants to market faster than the big box stores. So a lot of people don't know this, but the plant breeders are coming out with new varieties of plants I mean, hundreds of new varieties of plants every year. So, there are new petunias, there's new peonies, every single plant that you can possibly think of. There are new varieties coming down the pipeline constantly. And one of the things that we do as a smaller grower is we can travel to the trial gardens. So we can see plant genetics 2 or 3 years in advance as they go through trials and then decide, hey, this portulaca that we've been growing it does well, but look at this one that's growing right next to it. It's got a better habit. It's got more intense colors of the flowers. It's more drought tolerant, whatever it is. And then we're going to mix that into our lineup. And so one thing that you'll always see if you come here in the spring is you're going to see tried and true plants that we've been growing forever. And then you're always going to see brand new plant varieties that most of the time you can't find at a box store until 2 or 3 years once they catch up. Because we're a smaller operation, we can implement these changes more quickly than these massive, huge growers. And so that's something that I really enjoy is being able to have our own product line and control it. And we change every year. So if we say, man, this plant is a dud and we can't hardly sell it, we cut it from production. And then when we say, well, this plant has been a rock star and we ran out by April 1st of this variety of whatever it is, then we're gonna triple production for that for the next year. And so that's what I really enjoy because if we were only relying on buying plants from other growers, you can't control what they're going to be growing or the availability of it. They will run out of stuff. And so for us to be able to say, yeah, we've got plenty of this, we've got lots of this coming up in the back, and then when we're running out of something on the front, we run back and grab more out of the back and restock, throughout the day. And instead of waiting on a truck to get here the following week, it's just so nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, empty tables aren't making sales, for sure.
The other thing I was going to ask you is on the topic of doing everything on site, right? Like you mentioned, you guys don't do that much wholesale anymore, or if any at all. So you guys can hyper locally uh, go recommend things to people in Wichita Falls,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what you can tell people. The things that we grow that we have available are going to do well here. Because that's, I think, one of the biggest things that I hear from, and again, not to knock all the corporate overlords of the large organizations, but
No,
people
you
that
should.
buy, but people go into a Home Depot and they're like, "Well, I bought this thing," and it's like, yeah, they sell that same fig across the whole country. So
Yeah.
you don't have anything unique, right? And I think that's probably what got me to this crazy niche that I'm in now because everything I do, even my wife will tell you, everything I do, I go insane into. Like
Yeah.
I'm big into cold hardy pomegranates and they're ex USSR satellite state pomegranates because they're the hardiest. If you go to the store, they'll give you a wonderful or something else that's going to die here the first year, right?
Yeah.
So having things not only that are not available for the whole country, but they're hyper local that people can buy, that they can buy and know with confidence that I'm not going to have to come back and say, "Can I get a refund because it died?"
Yeah, so touching on the box stores, I joke that I hate the box stores. It's only semi-joking, but the
For sure.
the thing with it is there's so many people that think because in the past box stores were cheaper than independent garden centers. That is changing because ever since COVID, box stores have really raised their prices on their plants like crazy.
Yeah.
But so people still have this ingrained in their mind that if they're going to save money by going and buying plants from a big box store. But what I see so often is because they don't carry plants that are local for your area and for your region, they're just bringing in plants from these big regional growers and they're prioritizing anything that's got a bloom on it because they know that's what customers are going to buy. And it may not be a plant that survives in your area. And they don't educate you on whether it's a sun plant, a shade plant, how to plant it, or anything like that. And so people will go to the box store, think they're saving money, but then they end up losing plants, and it ends up being a bigger waste of money where they try to save $3 or $4 on a plant, but they end up losing hundreds of dollars of plants that were not the right plants planted in the right place in their landscape. And so, I just got a crazy survey back. I was talking to a guy that studies data from people's cellular devices from within an hour of visiting your garden center. And so this guy does mergers and acquisitions within the garden center industry, and he was kind enough to give me an insight to some of this AI data that he has access to. And so he goes, I'm looking at your store, and because our phones are broadcasting our location everywhere we go, and that data is for sale.
Of course.
And so one of the things that he was looking at is when people visit Smith's Gardentown, within an hour before they come to Smith's and within an hour after they leave Smith's, have they visited a box store in that time frame? And he said the nationwide average for independent garden centers is somewhere around 15 to 20% of customers when they visit your store, they've visited a big box store either right before or right after going. He said for you guys at Smith's over the last 12 months, that was 2%. So he said your customer loyalty is through the roof. That when your customers, they are coming to you because they really like who you are and you've got everything they need. They don't have to make another trip to another place. And I think we've done a great job of just building that loyalty because we have experts in every department. We've got, you walk into our houseplant greenhouses, and I've got people there that have more houseplant knowledge than I do and are better at the houseplants than I am. Same with, shrubs and cacti, flowers. I've got people that have been here for a really long time, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, and in every department. So when our customers come in, they know that they can ask questions, they can get real world experience answers, and they're going to end up saving money because they are not killing their plants when they get them home, at least hopefully. We don't like it when they kill their plants. We want them to stay alive and for them to be successful. So,
I'll tell you, I had a guy years ago, so he's probably not watching this podcast, so it's okay that I say this story. But he came to me in the spring trying to buy some palms, and he's like, "Man, uh, I spent $700 a year on the palms in front of my house," and I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "And they die every winter, and this is the third year I'm doing this," and I just think to myself, that's not a good idea. Like, why do you keep doing the same thing? And his comment was he keeps going to the same store. The same store keeps selling him the same thing. And you would think that the human condition at some point goes, yeah, this is probably not kind of working out. I should do something different. But God bless him. He just kept doing the same thing over and over again. And I was just like,
yeah.
man, somebody should have told you this is not a good idea. Like on the third time. But I think to Teddy's point, you, you, lots of folks that, and in general, at the big box store, try to go ask a complex question for electrical to the guy in the electrical aisle. The guy looks at you like you have 10 eyes. And in the gardening aisle, right? Because oftentimes it's very informal. There's no relationship. They don't see you. They may not be employed in 6 months, so they'll never see you again. Whereas at Smith's, you're on podcasts, you're all over the place, you're very social. You have the same employees year in and year out. And I think you treat this as a family, right? Whereas
Right.
it's a lot different because if you go and tell somebody, yeah, you should definitely plant that thing that's going to die, like deep down inside, well, what a sucker. That thing's going to die in the wintertime. Or you just don't know. I don't see you telling someone to plant something unless you know truly I should plant it. Why? Well, your name's kind of on the place, but also at the same time, it's like they'll see you every time you're in there, and it makes a
Right.
very uncomfortable conversation when you keep saying, "Yeah, plant that thing," and it dies every single year. So, kudos to you for how you run your operation and how you don't want it to turn into the experience of everybody else. And I think that's probably why your rate is so low and people come to you and not all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a great team and we got a great community that really loves us. And I love our Wichita Falls and community and greater. We get people that drive in from all over to shop with us. So we couldn't do it without them, without our customers, and it's just a really great thing.
I
So I
love it.
wanted to, like, what's your guys' favorite thing to produce that you grow from seed or cutting or prop there that you're like, just this is our bread and butter thing to grow?
Okay, so a couple of different things. So for as far as how we produce, we grow very little from seed. So the majority of what we grow comes from plugs. So we purchase plugs from young plant producers all over the Western Hemisphere, really. And I would say 80% of what we grow comes from plugs, and then about 15% comes from cuttings. We either purchase cuttings or we take cuttings off of any material that's not patent protected material. Or and then about 5% of what we grow comes from seed. And but to answer your question, I have two different answers. One of my favorite things because of the money making aspect of it is sweet potato vine. Um, especially there's some of the older school sweet potato vine, like sweet potato marguerite, is not patented anymore. So plant patents last for 20 years, and then once that 20-year lapses, they become open genetics, where you are able to propagate them without paying royalties on them anymore. And so Marguerite is one of those that we can take cuttings off of. And I sell thousands of those. And it's so easy to take cuttings and root it, and it grows so fast and it does really well in people's landscapes and containers. And so I love that plant because it's a good money maker. On the flip side of things, I love growing poinsettias. Poinsettias, we do not make a lot of money on poinsettias, to be honest. But I just love them because they're so gorgeous. And when they actually change colors and turn those beautiful reds and pinks and whites and all the other ones that we grow, it is such a magical transformation. And I love taking people on tours of the greenhouses. We do about 10,000 poinsettias a year. And so, taking people in there when it's just a sea of color, wall to wall in the greenhouses, that is magical to me. But yeah, the poinsettias that, they're we don't make just a ton of money off of them, but it's a season where we're not growing other plants. So the greenhouses are just full of poinsettias, and so it gives us something to do in that late fall and winter season. And does bring in some money during that slower time of the year for us. But yeah, those two I love growing.
Yeah,
So that's
the magic of plants, man.
Yeah.
so that's what you love to grow. I'm gonna ask you, what do you hate to grow?
Some of our staff would say poinsettias. Poinsettias are tricky. There's a lot of growers that have quit growing them recently because they can be a pain in the butt. But I love them. So what do I hate to grow? I hate to grow things that are pest magnets. So in greenhouse production, you get a bad outbreak of spider mites or mealy bugs. They can be super hard to shake. And so tropical hibiscus, hate growing those because of the spider mite aspect of tropical hibiscus. I have fought them many times, and we actually quit growing tropical hibiscus because of that. Same with Mandevilla, Diplodynia. They can be really bad spider mite magnets too. So those are anything that's like super prone to pests or that we have a hard time shaking pests on. That's what I don't like to grow.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I just buy those in now.
Interesting. Okay.
What about outside of the nursery? Do you plant stuff as a gardener at your own house also, or no?
I do. I will say I don't have the best garden. Like people always expect my house to be like this model of like paradise and gardens. But I just don't have the time to dedicate to maintaining my landscape all that well. I've got a decent garden. I've got a nice koi pond and things like that, but it's not like a, you know, HGTV backyard or anything like that. But I enjoy vegetable gardening with my kids. So we do raised bed vegetable gardening. I've got a nice pollinator garden going with a bunch of different perennials that I love, to bring in hummingbirds and butterflies. That's really fun for me. And we love feeding the birds at my house. We've got a nice bird feeder set up. I got a big picture windows like what's behind you, and like a huge bird feeding setup just right outside the windows where we are constantly sitting in there and just watching the different birds that come in. So that's what I enjoy at home. And then my koi pond, I love fish, and so built a pretty nice koi pond in the backyard that we have fun with.
Are you enjoying also taking care and feeding the squirrels too while you feed the birds?
Yeah, our bird feeders are pretty squirrel proof. We've got a squirrel baffle. I've got a pole system from Wild Birds Unlimited with a squirrel baffle on it, and so the squirrels most for the most part can't figure out how to get to the bird food. So that we've set it up that way.
If we're on birds, then what are your top two or three birds? This is completely off script that
Yeah.
you enjoy watching.
Well, I love seeing cardinals, and when we had the snowstorm earlier, like in January, my favorite thing to see are cardinals in the snow. Just that bright red against the white backdrop is
Contrast.
so pretty. And we, at one point, I counted 13 male cardinals on our feeders at the same time during that snowstorm. So those are always great to see, and chickadees, tufted titmouse. Those are fun ones too. And occasionally we get, weird stuff come through, like different woodpeckers or spotted towhees, things like that. But I enjoy seeing all the different birds that come in.
I'm a Blue Jay fan. I love
I
seeing
like
Blue
blue
Jays,
jays too.
but they're aggressive. They're not very nice, are they?
They're
From what
not
I hear.
nice, but they're not as bad as the starlings. That's one I don't like,
Yeah.
are the European starlings. And they're actually more aggressive than the blue jays are. But yeah, that's one I don't like to see a lot of.
Yeah. Um, so uh, what is a plant that you think people ought to be growing in Wichita Falls?
So my pick is actually one that people everywhere need to be growing. Unfortunately, it's not a native plant, but I still love it. It is catmint, so Nepeta, and there's multiple different varieties of catmint available. My favorite variety of catmint is Walker's Low. So catmint is not mint, or it's in the mint family, but it doesn't behave like mint where it spreads through underground
Hmm?
runners and goes crazy and takes over. And it's also not catnip, it's a different plant. So catmint, it's a herbaceous perennial. The Walker's Low variety, it gets to be about like 3 feet across, but about 3 feet wide, about 18 to 24 inches tall. But it gets these lavender colored flower spikes on it that the bees go crazy for. Like it gets so loaded up with bees that they just swarm to it. But it blooms for a super long time. So it'll bloom almost nonstop from frost to frost, which is crazy because most perennials, they bloom in the spring or they bloom in the summer or the fall. But the catmint, it tends to just bloom its head off throughout the season for a really long time, and the bees love it. And it like it goes crazy in full sun in Texas. It's very drought tolerant. And then I have friends in Canada that also love growing catmint. Like that's how versatile this plant is. It can
Wow.
go from like 110 degrees and it can also survive like negative 40 degrees up in Canada. That is my favorite perennial to grow.
I feel like that temperature difference is what I just experienced throughout this entire podcast. I feel I was like dying of heat, and I was trying to get out of the sun, and now the wind got really bad, and I have sandals on, and I'm cold outside right now. It hasn't even been an hour. This is outrageous. Um,
Uh-huh.
I'll let you ask a question, Teddy. I have a whole bunch of them for him, but I know we've already monopolized an hour and almost an hour and a half of his time.
Um, I got one more for you. What about so one thing that I really like here, like Tom said, I'm a little bit further north than you guys, obviously. So we get hot summers, but it's we get humidity, which is a killer here.
Yeah.
But then we get a longer cold period, obviously, no surprise there. So one thing I really like to plant is super important is just evergreens. From
Mhm.
cactus, yuccas, cold hardy sables, obviously, um, magnolias.
Yeah,
Man, anything evergreen. And so in the wintertime, everything doesn't look dead in my yard. What,
exactly.
what's an evergreen that you're a fan of yourself?
So for us, we do a lot of junipers here. You guys probably do a lot of arborvitae, I would imagine,
That's
in your
fine.
neck of the woods. They're very popular. Some of the arborvitae do well here. Some of them do not like the heat that we get here. But junipers kind of are rock stars for us because we have junipers that some of them only grow, 8 inches tall and they're spreading ground cover type junipers, whereas other ones can grow 20, 30 feet tall or more. One of them that we use pretty commonly as like a privacy screen or a, property line would be like the Eastern red cedar, which they call it a cedar, but it's technically a juniper. Um, and then Hollywood juniper, Spartan juniper, Taylor juniper, and then a lot of those like creeping blue Pacific juniper is one of my favorite ground cover ones. So those are really well, those do really well, and then hollies, are a great evergreen here. Nellie Stevens holly is kind of the queen of the large hollies that I love to grow, but Burford hollies do well, Yopon hollies. If you want something native, the Yopon holly is a great one for Texas, and it comes in standard and dwarf too. But those are some of my favorite evergreens that we do. But also, like you mentioned, the yuccas. There's a bunch of different yuccas we can grow here, and hesperaloes are great as well. So.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Mike, because as I'm looking at my notes here, something just popped into my brain that I'm just curious about. Do you guys do any online presence, like any online selling and shipping?
No, I should be, and I'm
See?
not.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest idiot in the world because we have like hundreds of thousands of followers and we have people literally beg us to send them plants because I'll talk about some plant like, hey, this is Coleus chocolate drops from Proven Winners and here's why it's so awesome. And I will have people in the comments like, please ship me plants. Like I would love to buy them from you. And I don't ship plants because we are not set up for like we just haven't built it out to
Yeah.
do plant shipping and online retailing. And so I'm constantly reminded that I'm stupid every time I think about that because I'm not taking advantage of the huge following and nationwide presence that we have. So I would love help on building that out too and trying to figure out how to make money outside of our geographic region.
And so, Mike, I don't know if you know this, but this is actually completely secretly an intervention. We waited an hour and a half to let you know that we're, we're trying to. No, I'm kidding. But no, I think I think about that all the time. Even Teddy, like how you and I oftentimes talk about, there's plenty of folks in the cold hardy space that have massive nurseries that just don't ship, right? And so it seems, but I'm assuming it's because you keep yourself busy. You obviously have a lot going on, and like you said, you probably want to make sure you have it done properly b before you go half-ass into something. Because
Exactly.
if you do, then it's going to be a mess, and it's hard to get out of a mess, if you will, right? So
Right.
that makes
Yeah, when
sense.
it comes to that, I know that there are people doing it successfully, even at large scale. I know that it's possible, but I just feel like I need the right person that can head it up because I'm not a IT wizard, and there's going to be a lot of, just getting website revamped, online cards, all of this stuff, setting up the back end of it. And then you've got to have shipping experts. And anytime you're shipping live material, it can be really tricky. And then it's like, we've worked so hard to build a reputation and online reviews and good quality plants and all of that. And then when you start shipping some of these plants, if they a lot of times it's out of your control. As soon as it leaves your facility, you're relying on UPS or FedEx. Those packages get delayed, the plant dies along the way. All of a sudden, you're getting people leaving negative comments, negative reviews, because of a bad experience they've had with shipping. It's like it's pretty daunting. But I do recognize that there are people doing it successfully, and I do recognize that I'm stupid for for not doing it with, I'm sure that there are people out there that would kill that are selling online and they would kill to have the presence that I have online and the trust online.
This guy.
Uh,
Yeah.
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 And so like I recognize all of that and I appreciate the intervention. And um, it's like, I know that there are people that would kill to have, 200,000 followers on Facebook to be able to post their products and ship to them and stuff like that. So um, I wish I could say I have something coming, but I don't currently have anything in the works for rectifying the situation.
Part two, you're gonna come back and tell us all about your plans.
Yeah, I'm interested in doing it for sure, but I feel like I just need to like find someone that can champion that for me and hire them and uh
It's a lot. Well, personally, I kind of see the same parallels in your social media type of situation, right? You had the same thing happening where you said you didn't trust your TikTok, which I didn't either. I do have a TikTok account. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but same thing. I think if you kind of get your, Teddy and myself ship thousands of palms a year. I think once you figure it out, you kind of figure it out. It takes a little bit of trial and error. Um, but yeah, that I would see that would probably be a really awesome avenue for a lot of your plants as well, I would think.
yeah, I agree. So I am looking into I haven't pulled the trigger on it. There are drop shipping programs where there are programs where these large wholesale growers in different regions of the US are partnering with local garden centers and listing their inventory on that local garden center's website as if it were coming from them. But when someone places an order through the garden center's website, it gets drop shipped straight from the farm to the house. Um,
Interesting.
so I'm interested in that. I've been looking into that. It's kind of crazy. You got to really trust that farm that they're going to have the quality
Yep.
that people would expect from you. But I think there's some really good ones out there. And but the other thing about that is like online plants are really expensive. But I need to just get with it because when you look at I sell a perennial here for $11, a 1 gallon perennial. And if you find that same perennial online from one of these like drop shipping places, they're selling it for 36, $40 for that same plant. And to me, that's outrageous, but people are buying them because they just do one click checkout
Yep.
and it ships to their door and they can get the exact variety that they want that they maybe can't find at their local place or
Yep.
whatever it is. And so these are just like mental hurdles I've got to get over.
And we're here to help you with that, Mike. That's what we're here for.
All right.
It's free. It's free. Don't worry about it.
All right. Appreciate it.
Tom,
Uh,
I think we've taken up enough of this
yeah.
man.
I agree. I agree, Mike. We've taken about an hour and a half of your time. I'll let you I'll let you take us out in terms of Smith's Gardentown. Tell everybody how they can find you. I was going to say go shop on their website, but obviously I'm not going to say that. But if you're in Wichita Falls, or if you're near Wichita Falls, please go see Mike. He's a rock star.
Yeah, it's worth the trip. We have people that drive in literally from hours away, from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, South Texas, because they found us on social media and they were like, I've been dying to come visit you guys. And so we try to make sure that when they get here, they're not disappointed. And yeah, so if anybody wants to make the trip out, give us a follow. If you can't make it here, give us a follow on social media. That's always helpful too. But yeah, Smith's Garden Town, we try to keep it fun and keep it interesting and educational.
Thank you, Mike. We really appreciate it. I say this to all of our guests because I don't think we're gonna have any lousy guests on. That obviously is not our point. We'll make sure to get you a couple of stickers, Mike. We're in the process of working on some shirts, like some
Oh,
hoodies.
cool.
like some actual nice kind of a wicking hoodie, right? Where you're out in the greenhouse with having the Palmcast logo on there. So we'll make sure to
Perfect.
get you one after we, have those made. But we greatly appreciate it, man. I will love to have you on for a part 2 through 10 at some point down the road. So if you'll come back, we'd love to have you back, man.
Yeah, I'd love it. So this was great. Appreciate you having me on.
Our
Yeah,
pleasure.
you and thanks for all your info.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So thank you, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. Episode 5. Is that right, Teddy?
Yeah, Tom was
5.
4. Yep, this is 5.
5. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Mike and Smith's Gardentown. Take care, everybody.